This is what decides the world. Welcome back everyone to Mind Podcast. I sincerely hope that you don't skip this video because it is the Buddhist video that I am most passionate about up to now. This could very well be the only salvation in your life in an age where media and information reign supreme. Each day, we absorb all kinds of information in our minds from every field of life and society, from valuable information to trivial information. Among this flood of information, global political security is always the most talked about topic. We often hear people mention the names of leaders of superpowers like Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, or billionaires like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, or the mysterious Rockefeller family. These are all people who influence the fate of the entire planet. Many believe these figures have the power to decide the world's direction, whether toward glory or destruction. Is this really true? That is the issue we will examine in today's video. Of course, we will examine it from a deeper perspective because, regardless of world politics, economics, or military matters, we view them through the lens of Buddhist teachings. Buddhist scriptures say that after meditating for 49 days under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha Shakyamuni attained supreme enlightenment, becoming the highest awakened being. He discovered the essence of mind, or consciousness, as the source of the universe and all things, affirming that mind and matter are not different, though their forms differ completely. Therefore, the Buddha's teachings are called the path of non-duality. The non-dual method does not mean two, nor does it mean one. The Diamond Sutra states, "Let your mind arise without being fixed anywhere." The mind can manifest in any place without limitation and can appear as knowledge, as thought, or in the form of tangible matter. Thus, the Buddha knew clearly that matter is merely an illusion, not real. The universe, all things, and human life are only illusions, not real. He left the throne, his wife, and his child to seek the path to solve the issue of suffering in the world, specifically focusing on the four fundamental sufferings of beings: birth, aging, illness, and death. In the end, he discovered that these sufferings are not real. Human beings themselves, composed of the five aggregates, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, are also not real. In other words, the five aggregates are empty. These discoveries are incredibly profound, extremely difficult to understand, and hard to believe. Therefore, immediately after his enlightenment, the Buddha intended to enter nirvana without teaching, because beings were not real and suffering was not real. So who needed to be saved? However, Brahma, a deity in the heavens with divine insight, knew what the Buddha was thinking and appeared before him, imploring him to teach the Dharma, as beings are deluded, believing themselves to be real and suffering greatly. To the Buddha, suffering was merely an illusion, but to sentient beings, that suffering felt completely real. In truth, he only played a role. To teach the Dharma, there needed to be a karmic connection, a sincere request. The Buddha appeared in this world for the great karmic purpose of liberating sentient beings from suffering, so there was no reason not to stand and preach. He needed a representative, and Brahma's plea provided the karmic cause for his teaching. Initially, the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, followed by the 12 links of dependent origination, explaining the nature of causes and conditions and how the law of karma operates. But ultimately, when sentient beings had a foundational understanding, he destroyed all concepts again, teaching the Heart Sutra, breaking through all worldly views, and revealing the ultimate truth that emptiness is the essence of all phenomena. Everything is merely an illusion, not real. The sutras clearly state, deliver all beings from all forms of suffering, because everything is just a dream. Families of passengers on Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, or those who lost loved ones in earthquakes in Japan, endured day and night in suffering. Vice Principal Kang Min Kyung of a school that lost many students in a tragedy even hanged himself, although he was one of the 3 teachers saved out of 15 on the ferry. He committed suicide, tormented by suffering, as he was the one who organized the school trip. Out of 325 students, only 75 were saved. His death added further pain to his family and didn't help anyone. If people understood that the world is just an illusion and not real, would that reduce suffering? Did the vice principal need to take his own life? He believed he had to bear that responsibility. a truly unfortunate mistake. Now, let us examine whether the leaders of the superpowers mentioned above and Vice Principal Kang Min-kyung truly make any decisions, or if all decisions are made in a selfless and unconscious way. Modern science has reached a level sophisticated enough to understand and verify the Buddha's discoveries. The Buddha taught non-self in beings and impermanence in all phenomena. This is a truly crucial detail that humanity should comprehend, and Buddhist monks and practitioners should also understand. The following experiment will demonstrate that human consciousness or willpower is highly dependent. It does not truly make any decisions. The consciousness of the self is merely an executor. The self is simply nothing. The self believes it is making decisions, but in reality, it does not. In this experiment, even though Marcus presses the button on the left or right, the researchers looking into his brain already know up to 6 seconds in advance which button he will press. This proves that Marcus' consciousness is not the one making the decision. The decision was made beforehand, and only after 6 seconds does he become aware and press the button. From this experiment, we can conclude the following. 1. A decision that has a deep foundation, whether it's from the karma of an individual or a collective, is a valid decision with enough power to manifest. In Buddhism, this is said to be when all necessary conditions align, then the phenomenon or result must appear. If his consciousness makes the same decision as his karma, the outcome will undoubtedly be successful and as expected. 2. An individual's consciousness can also make a mistaken decision, following false thoughts without any deep foundation or conditions. In such cases, the result will either not appear or not meet expectations, resulting in failure. This explains why some people succeed while others fail. For instance, Bill Gates decided to drop out and enter the business world, establishing Microsoft and developing a computer operating system. He succeeded because that decision was not truly chosen by his consciousness, but by his karmic consciousness, which selected in a selfless manner, aligning with the conditions and real circumstances of the world at that time. If others try to imitate Bill Gates by dropping out and pursuing business based solely on their own decisions, they will likely fail. This experiment reveals that world leaders like Biden, Xi Jinping, or Putin may not actually make decisions themselves. They are, like Marcus, merely executors, although they believe they are the ones making decisions. This belief enables their success. If their consciousness were to make random, erroneous decisions, they would surely fail. Thus, the world is not decided by the leaders of superpowers or powerful nations. This is certainly the case. For instance, the superpower United States, with unmatched economic and military strength, could not overcome a few thousand poorly equipped Taliban soldiers because President Joe Biden made an ill-suited decision that did not align with the karmic conditions of the Afghan people, which did not permit subjugation of their country. So, who or what truly makes the decisions? According to Dr. Amit Gami and other quantum physicists, consciousness is actually the one making decisions, but this consciousness has no ego. We often refer to it as pure awareness. It is purely information, understanding, and spirit. It is not anyone in particular, but in reality, it is the determining factor of all phenomena that occur in the world. Quantum physicists are also at a loss for terminology. They don't know of a better term and thus use the word consciousness. This term can be confused with individual consciousness. But here, consciousness is understood as synonymous with the alaya consciousness in Buddhist Yogacara teachings. It is an invisible storehouse containing all phenomena occurring within the 3 realms. Alaya consciousness, when analyzed, comprises 8 consciousnesses. The karmic actions of each individual, collective, or nation are stored within alaya consciousness, and based on conditions and karma, appropriate data and information are selected for each specific case or event. The individual consciousness, even if it belongs to the political leader of the world's strongest superpower, is not the deciding factor. It merely plays a dependent role. Outwardly, it appears as if they are the one making decisions. Everyone believes so, including the leader themselves. Only the enlightened ones understand that the leader is not truly the decision maker, but merely an executor. Are there concrete historical cases that show that a leader does not actually make decisions? Certainly there are, and there is even an entire philosophy around it. Laozi's Tao Te Ching is intended for kings and leaders of nations, in which he proposes wu wei, or non-action. This means ruling without imposing personal opinions and decisions, rather than everyone passively doing nothing. People continue to live their lives according to a universal principle that they sense naturally when free from selfish desires. When we say non-action, it actually means not acting based on personal desires, but acting according to the very precise guidance of consciousness in the invisible realm. Let us look at how quantum physicists, in collaboration with neuroscientists, explain the mechanism of how the field of consciousness creates matter. We perceive matter as solid and substantial, but it is merely an illusion created by the brain. We are deceived without realizing it. The enlightened ones wonder, oh, that matter is not real, it is only an illusion. The self is also not real and does not truly make any decisions. If it does happen to make a misguided decision without foundation, it will inevitably lead to suffering, as in the case of Vice Principal Kang Min Kyung. The universe, all things, and human life are just a play, a game filled with joy and sorrow, pleasure and suffering, and delusion. Although it is a play, it operates with certain laws. These laws are not eternal truths. In other words, even the law of cause and effect is not an eternal truth. It only holds value within the dream, though this dream is almost eternal for the vast majority of sentient beings, as described in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. The Buddha's teachings present the story of the blind men and the elephant as an example of human ignorance. We have all heard this story before, so there is no need to repeat it. Almost all sentient beings are like these blind men. They only perceive the elephant according to their own imagination, resulting in 5 completely different interpretations. They never truly know the entirety or reality of the elephant. Quantum physicists today have presented this concept in a scientific and persuasive way. The elephant today is understood as a field of frequencies, sometimes referred to as the superstring field or unified field. In the context of Buddhist Yogacara philosophy, it could be called the field of consciousness or alaya consciousness, a storehouse of all initial data or seeds for creating the universe. It is invisible, but scientists believe it takes the form of frequency waves. It does not exist within the spatial universe, but is the origin of the spatial universe. Buddhists claim that the spatial universe is merely an illusion, a hologram, meaning it is not real. The universe and all things appear only within the brains of living beings. Selected frequency waves are transmitted to the brain, which then translates them into matter, such as bodies, trees, houses, and objects. But what selects these waves? In Buddhism, it is referred to as consciousness, or pratibimba citta, which chooses based on the karmic conditions of sentient beings. According to Yogacara, consciousness comprises 8 types, with manas being the self-clinging consciousness of each sentient being. The data in a being's manas is selected and transmitted to their brain, from which it projects a world for that being. Manas then interacts with objects within the 3-dimensional space projected from its own consciousness. Due to collective karma, many beings can see and interact with the same object. For instance, billions of people on Earth see the moon. Thus, the Song Dynasty poet Su Shi wrote a line in his poem that says, "Though separated by 1,000 miles, we all see the same moon." Matter is not real, so it is not objective. This explains why, despite half a century of searching, humanity has not found extraterrestrial beings. Since 1960, Americans initiated the SETI program, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, using radio waves sent into the universe to seek signals from other civilizations. By 1995, with the advent of computers and the internet, many individuals worldwide volunteered to join this program by analyzing data. Yet, to this day, the search has been in vain without any significant findings. Sometimes people claim to have seen or even interacted with extraterrestrial beings, but there is no solid scientific basis for concluding that extraterrestrial beings exist. It may be that beings from other worlds exist, yet they do not see the Earth, nor do they perceive humans on it, because Earth and humanity are illusions. Illusion becomes physical and tangible reality for those within the same realm, but it remains unreal and non-existent for those outside of it. The hologram is a fundamental principle of holographic science. If we do not understand that illusion is the underlying principle of the world, that the world is merely a transient appearance, a projection of the consciousness of sentient beings, including humans, who are actors in the grand cosmic play, then we are mistaken in believing that all phenomena are real. Thinking that marriage, love, and human relationships are inherently real is indeed a major misconception. Although we understand that the nature of the world is illusory, Buddhism does not teach people to live dishonestly, because that world is relative. Albert Einstein articulated the concept of relativity quite clearly. Mass is relative, meaning it is not fixed and can increase or decrease. Spatial distance is also relative, meaning 1 meter is not always 1 meter. Sometimes it may be 1033 minus 33, 1033 centimeters. Other times it could be 93 billion light years. Space is simultaneously a point in the current universe because time is not real. Relative time means that while the average human lifespan may be around 70 years, a person could theoretically travel to another planet hundreds of light years away and return within their lifetime. This relative world brings novelty to human life, with many things unpredictable by logic. In mathematical terms, it cannot be represented by a linear equation. This is why Buddhist education highly respects the life of sentient beings, not disregarding life just because it is illusory. Buddhism establishes the 5 precepts for lay practitioners, with the first precept being to refrain from killing and to adopt a vegetarian diet to avoid harming visible beings and adding to the world's suffering. Even though suffering is also an illusion, we derive an important principle here. In the relative world, one should not reason solely with logic. Logic is full of biases, and biases contain many errors. For example, if an archer is 10 meters away from a target and the arrow travels at 100 meters per second, it would logically hit the target in 1/10 of a second. But there is an alternative line of reasoning. The arrow always has half of the remaining distance to cross, so it would theoretically never reach the target. Most people think the first reasoning is correct. The arrow will certainly hit the target after January 10th of a second. However, Zeno also demonstrated that his reasoning is not entirely wrong. In certain circumstances, bullets fired from a gun do not reach the target. This supports Buddhism's perspective that the world is a projection, not truly real, and that there is no eternal truth, only relative truth. The Buddha discovered that all 6 senses are fallible and unreliable. Relying on the senses inevitably leads to mistakes. One of the greatest errors of sentient beings is believing that the world is real, while the Buddha's wisdom perceives that reality is merely emptiness. Nothing at all. Everything is a projection. In quantum entanglement, the non-reality, indeterminacy, and non-locality of quantum particles vividly illustrate the concept of emptiness that Shakyamuni Buddha discovered. Buddha's insights are now clearly explained by quantum physicists, so clear that Dr. Ahmed Gami says it is as clear as daylight. Therefore, the world is not determined by the leaders of superpowers or powerful nations. Outwardly, it appears as if they decide the world's fate, but scientific evidence, through both cosmic theories and experiments like the double-slit experiment, quantum entanglement phenomena, and the holographic model of the brain, where the brain decides 6 seconds before consciousness becomes aware, shows that both the universe and the human brain are holograms. Holograms are defined as illusions that appear where they do not actually exist. This concept has only been confirmed by 21st century science in recent years, but Buddhism has addressed this idea since the Buddha attained supreme enlightenment more than 2,500 years ago. Buddhist scriptures often mention this concept, with phrases like, "Let your mind arise without fixing anywhere," "Form is not different from emptiness, and emptiness is not different from form," "The Dharma realm without hindrance," "The 3 realms exist solely in the Min, D, and all phenomena are mere consciousness." Everything that happens or appears in the universe is impermanent, without self, and is not decided by anyone. This is the hope for smaller nations. They will not forever be subservient to larger nations. The fate of the world is not controlled by major powers, nor can major powers dominate forever. Many things happen unpredictably. The British Empire, the French Empire, Nazi Germany, and Imperial Japan only existed for a period. The United States cannot lead the world indefinitely. And although China currently holds a favorable position, it certainly will not do so forever. Thank you for watching the video. Please leave your comments below.